My favorite mango yogurt got discontinued.
We've all been there. You're at the grocery store looking for that perfect nostalgic treat, and it's nowhere to be found. These are the 20 best discontinued snacks that no longer exist.
Oh, I missed them.
PB Crisps.
PB Crisp, PB Crisp, PB Crisp.
If you enjoyed snacking throughout the 90s, then chances are you came across these at some point in your ventures. Peanut butter encased in a hard cookie shell, PB Crisps were quick to become a fan favorite, and yet they just didn't seem to bring in the sales that the Planters Company needed to justify continuing to make them.
Good point.
It's difficult to say when exactly PB Crisps were discontinued, but fans report being able to find bags being sold in stores as recently as the early to mid-2000s. And yes, in this case, the term fans does seem appropriate for this snack food because this is the only entry on this list that holds the distinction of having an entire website campaigning for its return. While there's been no movement on the part of the Planters Company, PB Crisps still stands as a testament to how a simple food can bring us together here on the internet. Ritz Bits S'mores.
S'mores Ritz Bit Sandwiches.
Ritz Bits sandwiches have been offering a variety of fillings between their perfectly salted crackers for years. And although s'mores may have at one point seemed both the most obvious choice and a fan favorite, this sweeter flavor option was ultimately discontinued in 2016.
That's sad.
Beaten out by both cheddar and peanut butter, both of which are still available to this day. That may be good news to you savory fans, but for snack fans with a sweet tooth, this nostalgic classic will surely be missed. Philadelphia Cheesecake Snack Bars.
Cheesecake.
Does the idea of snacking on cheesecake throughout your day sound a bit like you've died and gone to heaven? Well, that was the idea behind these Philadelphia Cheesecake Snack Bars, the treat of angels, according to early 2000s marketing at least. These sinfully sweet little snack bars were offered in a variety of flavors, including white chocolate raspberry and chocolate chip. And yet it's the strawberry flavor that people seem to remember best. And though the Philadelphia Cheesecake Snack Bars have been unusually absent from the shelves since around 2003, it hasn't been due to a lack of interest.
So what?
As it stands, there are currently around 42,000 signatures on a Change.org petition asking Kraft to bring them back. Even still, there's been no movement from the company to re-release them, though you can find a few recipes online that may help you recreate this snack-sized bliss from your own home. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Pies.
I don't think this is our dimension.
If there was one thing that we loved to see as kids in the 90s, it was food dyed bright green, even if the end result wasn't necessarily the most appetizing to look at. These radioactive-looking Hostess cakes were released for a 20-week exclusive period in 1991, and they came along with a commercial that featured the Teenage Ninja Turtles rapping about a treat that comes fresh from the sewers to you.
Well, I don't get it.
These green glazed pie crusts were supposedly filled with something that was referred to as vanilla pudding power, and since disappearing from shelves, they've become little more than a fond memory for those who grew up loving the turtles in a half-shell cake. Pizzarias Pizza Chips.
Pizzarias!
And speaking of the Ninja Turtles, what food could possibly feel more reminiscent of the 1990s than pizza? Add that flavor to a chip, and you have what was once the most successful snack to have been launched by Keebler at the time, raking in revenue of $75 million within their first year. These triangular chips came in 3 pizza-themed flavors.
Pizza!
Nobody really knows the real reason why Pizzaria's pizza chips were discontinued at some point in the year 2000, though many have speculated that it may have something to do with the fact that the Kellogg's company acquired Keebler around the same time. Or who knows, perhaps the pizza chip was just a little too extreme for the new millennium. Cheetos Twisted Puffs.
Cheetos is back in the game, people.
When it comes to cheese, there are few snacks that can satisfy quite like Cheetos. Whether your preference is something light and puffy or a little harder and crunchier, there's definitely a Cheetos product out there for you. For a brief period of time, Cheetos even offered an option that was a mix of both. Cheetos Twisted Puffs, with a design that was meant to offer a little bit more of a crunch than your typical Cheetos Puffs, while still maintaining that light and airy quality that you don't often get with Cheetos Crunchy.
kind of the best of both of them.
The result was a shape that could pack on a lot more of that cheesy goodness. This compromise between the two tastes was a fan favorite throughout the early 2000s, before ultimately being discontinued in 2013, inspiring several online campaigns to bring the cheesy snack back. Pillsbury Waffle Sticks.
Waffle time, it's waffle time. Won't you have some waffles of mine?
The premise behind this product was simple. What if you could have hot, ready-to-eat waffles at a moment's notice, and all you needed to do was rip open a cup of rich, sugary syrup to dip it in? This warm, breakfast-themed option was once a favorite of many, but considering Pillsbury already offered the toaster strudel, it seemed that some people considered this option a little bit redundant.
Yes, I'd like both right now.
By the mid-2000s, Pillsbury's waffle sticks had popped off the market completely. Pop-Tart Go-Tarts.
Who wants Pop-Tarts?
This thicker, bar-shaped version of a Pop-Tart once graced the lunchboxes of lucky kids between the years of 2006 and 2008. The idea behind them was that they were supposed to be more easily portable than the traditional variety. These came individually wrapped rather than in packages of 2, but outside of that, the bar shape didn't really add all that much to the Pop-Tart that we knew and loved.
You always have Pop-Tarts.
Which was already fairly easy to pack with you wherever you go. These bars were also more difficult to just pop into the toaster than traditional Pop-Tarts. And so really, it kinda just seemed like the Go-Tarts offered less versatility, and maybe a slightly different ratio of filling to crust. Within 2 years, the Pop-Tart Go-Tarts were gone from shelves forever. Keebler Magic Middles.
Put chocolate chips in them.
Once a staple for the school lunches of many millennials, these were shortbread cookies filled with either peanut butter or fudge. And yes, they were just as amazing as they sound. Unfortunately, these cookies just quietly disappeared off the shelves at some point in 2011. And though the internet has been hoping to see a return for these sweet treats at some point in time, nothing definitive has ever come through. But even still, Facebook groups continue to remain active, hoping to see a return of the elves that once made snack time a little more magical for us all. Yogos. If you were going to school at some point around 2005, then chances are you remember the feeling of opening your lunch bag to see these colorful little yogurt bites. These fun, fruity treats were almost impossible not to notice, and yet they were discontinued in 2010. Even still, the internet hasn't forgotten about Yogos, and multiple online petitions have been started over the years in the hopes of getting the attention of the people at Kellogg's.
Please, please.
Thus far, the only response these petitions have received has been a thank you message on Kellogg's Twitter account, but who knows? Stranger items have returned. Cheetos Cheesy Checkers.
Did you steal my Cheetos again?
If you thought that Cheetos idea of structuring their little puffs into a spiral shape in order to pack on more of that cheesy flavoring was genius, just wait until you see Cheetos Cheesy Checkers. Promising to offer 33% more cheese, these were rectangular grates with small holes built in, supposedly to catch any extra seasoning that may be lingering at the bottom of the bag. While this would hardly be the last time that Frito-Lay would play with the shapes of their Cheetos by adding seasoning-catching holes, the checkered design wasn't enough to catch the attention of buyers.
Dangerously cheesy.
And Cheetos Cheesy Checkers officially slipped through the cracks in 1998. Crunch Tators.
Extra crunchy potato chips.
If you were a kid in the late 80s or early 90s, then perhaps you're familiar with Crunch Tators chips, or at least you may recognize the little cartoon alligator that appeared on every bag. This extra crunchy chip, with a texture comparable to kettle chips, was so popular at the time, in fact, that you can even see Kevin eating Crunch Tators while watching Angels with Filthy Souls in Home Alone. Crunch Tators only came in 2 flavors, Hoppin' Jalapeno and Mighty Mesquite Barbecue. And if you're wondering, Kevin prefers the barbecue. The Frito-Lay company stopped producing Crunch Tators at some point around the mid-90s, though perhaps only so that they could shift their focus towards kettle-cooked chips instead. Munch Ems.
I used to love that.
When you're in the mood for something savory, the good old-fashioned potato chip has become a fan favorite for its delectable crunch. And yet, snackers of the 90s may still remember this baked cracker that dared to offer the crunch of a potato chip. Munch Ems came in a variety of flavors, including ranch, cheddar, and sour cream and onion. And for many, they served as the perfect introduction to crackers as a snacking option. And yet, the little cracker that could still couldn't compete against the tried-and-true potato potato, the reigning snacking champion. Munch Ems had been crunched completely from grocery store shelves by the early 2000s. Jell-O pudding pops.
But Mom, it's a Jell-O pudding pop snack. She said, fine.
What could be better than frozen pudding? First released in the 1970s, these ice creamy delights became a staple for kids trying to cool down on a hot summer day throughout the 80s and 90s.
A classic.
They came in a variety of flavors, including vanilla, banana, and swirl. But it was the chocolate variety that stole most people's hearts, being somewhat comparable to a fudgesicle. The Jell-O brand was sold to Popsicle in 2004, however, eventually leading to this tasty treat vanishing from shelves completely by 2011. Sriracha Snack Mix Cheez-Its.
Hey, the world craves cheese, and I'm gonna bring it.
Hoping to capitalize on the popularity of Sriracha at the time, Cheez-Its dove headfirst into offering the world this spicy snack that the world really wasn't entirely sure it wanted. While spice lovers had finally found the snack of their dreams, most people weren't all too crazy about the idea of Sriracha in snack mix form. And so, Cheez-Its chose to quietly pull this product from shelves before announcing its official discontinuation in 2019. Jumpin' Jack Cheese Doritos.
How dare you?
When Doritos first rolled out these Monterey Jack-flavored chips back in 1990, it seemed as though they were off to a great start. With a commercial starring Jay Leno promising you a chip with a deliciously cheesy flavor, it seemed as though the Frito-Lay company had another massive success on their hands. And yet, Jumpin' Jack Cheese Doritos failed to survive the early 90s, though they were brought back for a limited time in 2013. Skippy Squeeze Sticks. Kids in the 90s had some of the best treats packed in their school lunches, and one example that shines a bit above the rest is Skippy Squeeze Sticks. Basically your typical to-go tube, except filled with Skippy peanut butter. These little treats just made snack time exciting.
Snack time!
You could either get it in plain peanut butter or with chocolate flavoring. Though fans praised the design for its convenience, the Squeeze Sticks failed to survive the 90s. Skippy does continue to offer a squeeze pack for their standard peanut butter, but the Stix design and that chocolate flavoring have unfortunately become relics of the past. Screaming Yellow Zonkers. Screaming Yellow Zonkers, or SYZ as it was sometimes affectionately called, was a brand of sweetened popcorn, though it was potentially best known for their bright and often humorous packaging set against a plain black backdrop. The popcorn itself had been sweetened using a distinctive yellow sugar glaze that made it extremely eye-catching. First introduced onto shelves in 1968, SYZ managed to cement itself enough as a snacking staple to stick around for nearly 40 years. But after a period of being sold exclusively through Walgreens through the late 2000s, the screaming Yellow Zonkers quietly vanished off of shelves. Bagel-fuls.
You are hungry. Bagel?
I don't mind if I do.
For those who can remember Kraft Bagel-fuls, most likely the first memory that springs to mind is burning your tongue on the cream cheese filling and not regretting a single moment of it. Introduced in the frozen aisle of your grocery store in 2008, these were to-go bagels stuffed with cream cheese, perfect for today's get-up-and-go types, or just for snacking on throughout your day.
Bagel.
Yet, as ahead of their time as these little snack-sized bagels may have been, they failed to find their market at the time they hit the shelves, and were shortly thereafter discontinued. Lifesavers Holes.
Did you just say lightsaber? I think you mean lifesaver.
Although Lifesavers candies have been around since the 1910s and continue to be sold in stores today, the idea of filling in the holes didn't really become popular until around the 1990s. These little candies were marketed with the gimmick that you were supposed to be able to pop the holes out to enjoy separately. And yet, the packaging was deemed a choking hazard when it was discovered that teenagers were biting the plastic caps off, and Lifesavers holes were officially recalled in 1991. Looking for more tasty videos? Well, we've got them, so stay right here and check out another one.